Hi everyone, Rad Drew here. Thanks for joining me tonight. What I want to do today is share with you a process that I've used to take a sort of ho-hum Fuji image that I made at Longwood Gardens a couple years ago of these lilies, and turned it into what is a much more, I think, abstract and engaging image. And I had a lot of fun creating it, and I wanted to show you how I did it. So let's take a look here. I'm going to move over here and show you. This is what the image looked like when it started. And let me just get rid of my, you don't need to look at my face. There we go. This is what the image looked like. It's a raw file, which I took and dragged and dropped right into the Studio 2 interface. Now, those of you who've been using this for a while know that Studio 2 is the latest version of Studio. And, you know, it's gotten kind of short shrift over the past couple of years. It's taken a back seat to some of the sexier programs out there like Denoise AI and Sharpen AI, Gigapixel AI. But I still love it as a favorite way to stylize images. It just has some tools that I don't find anywhere else, and the ability to mask and use these tools in ways that just gives you so much really cool control over what you're doing. So what I'm going to show you is a process that I use for most of my images and then take it into stylizing. So one of the questions I get all the time is, why do you bother to sharpen and process an image so much if you're just going to throw a texture or painterly effects on it? And I believe that I like to start with my image before I begin to stylize. I like to have it look as good as it can look, so that everything is sharp and clear before I begin to stylize. And I think the bones of that original image then shine through all those other adjustments that get made. So what I want to do here is take you through my standard process. So the first thing I do with this image, I'll come over here to my filter. Now I'm going to assume you know something about this interface already, so I'm not walking through the details of this interface, but there are some other apps on YouTube or other videos that I have on YouTube, and I'll do another webinar on this at some point. But for today, it's just kind of focusing on this one image. So I'm going to come up here to Add Filter, and I'm going to go all the way down, and down at the bottom, you'll notice these are all the Topaz plugins. So these other products that are part of the Topaz suite, when you install those on your computer, they are now automatically installed into Studio, and it's made it very easy and seamless for that to happen. What I'm going to do is access Denoise AI down here. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to launch Denoise AI and take us into Denoise AI. And I'm going to start by clicking on these automatic option buttons here. And what it's doing, it's assessing the image, and it's choosing one of the AI models based on that assessment. You can override that anytime you want. For this demo, I'm going to go with these auto settings, which are usually very, very good. Next, I like to come up and enlarge the image so I can really see what's going on, and then drag over to this part so I can see how it's going to affect the image. Now, I have mine set up to auto update. So you'll notice it's already run and updated. And if I take the slider here, I can slide to the right, and you see there's before. And then when I slide to the right, there's after. And you can see in the clarity of these little water droplets and things, it's really added clarity to this image in a positive way. I'm going to go down now. I could override that. I could tweak this and play with it, but I'm just going to accept that. And I'm going to apply what we're seeing here is a preview. I'm going to apply that. And you can see up here at the top, it's running. It takes a minute to process, and the speed of that will be contingent upon the hardware that you have on your machine. But it doesn't take long. It's almost done now. And it's getting toward that very last part. There we go. So now we've run Denoise AI on this image. The next thing I want to do is run Sharpen AI, which is also a plugin down here under the plugin category. I'm going to click on Sharpen AI, and it's taking me out, launching Sharpen AI. And one of the things that's really cool about this, for this one, I'm going to drop this down to fit on the screen. And what I want to show you here is this really cool tool. If you can select these areas that you want sharpened. So I don't really want to sharpen the lily pads in the background. I want to sharpen those flowers, because what we're going to do with this image is bring those flowers out and let the background drift off into the distance. So what I'm going to do is choose select here, and it's going to auto select those subjects. Let's just see how it does. It takes a minute to try and find those subjects and mask them in. And it's turning away, trying to come up with that. Takes it a second. There. So it only found 2 of the flowers and it didn't find all of them. So what I want to do, but it did get them pretty good on where it did get them, but it missed a few things. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I want to complete the mask by choosing add, and I can leave the size about there. I want edge aware on, and I'm going to come in here and just paint in the areas that it missed here. And I'll come over here and get the ones on here. And I can change the size of that brush at some time if I want. And I'm just going to get all these areas. It's a little tedious here. All right, so now we've got this masked. And now I'm going to update that mask. So I'll click update down here. And now it's running the sharpen model, which it identified up here as the very motion blur, very noisy. And there is our image now, and it's just sharpened the flowers. And if we zoom in on this more where we can see what's going on, there's 200%. And we'll come over here. Now it's got to run again. Anytime you move the image or resize it, it has to render it again. So it's rendering it right now. There, it's done. And let's look at the difference. There's before and there's after. It's a subtle difference, but it's really cleaned up and given us some sharper edges around things, and it looks much better. But what's interesting here is that, again, we've masked it so that it's only sharpened the flowers and not the background, which is what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply here, and it's going to do the processing on the sharpened image and round trip us back into Studio. And for whatever reason, the sharpen takes a little bit longer than Studio, at least on my machine. I mean, than AI, denoise AI. But again, that's going to be contingent upon, the type of hardware you have on your respective machine. So we're almost done. There we go. And now we're back into the image. And if I click on the image here, there's before the sharpening and noise reduction, and there's after. If we zoom in a little bit more, we can see there's before and there's after. It's a subtle difference, but it's exactly what I'm looking for here. And the background has remained very soft and, in the background. Next, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to grab a basic adjustment. And for this, I want to turn on the histogram. And here's my panel of sliders. And I want to set my black point first. And I'm just going to use the black level slider here. And I'm going to watch the histogram down here at the bottom. And I'm going to drop that level down just until it begins to clip a little bit there on the left right here. That looks pretty good to me. Next, I'll go to my white level, and I'm going to bring that to the right until it starts to clip on the right side down here, and might take it a little bit more. And maybe a little more, something like that. So now as I look at this, I'm not seeing anything blown out. My blacks are okay. They're a little bit dark, but that's okay. I might come in and I can play with those shadows. I might drop them down a little bit. I might give it a little clarity. And that might be all I do. Maybe I'm going to give it a little bit of warmth because bring those flowers up just a little bit. Oops, that's temperature. Is that what I wanted? Yeah. A little bit of warmth and maybe just a touch of saturation. So I've really kind of popped those colors just a little bit. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do after the basic adjustment, I want to add a blur to this. So I'm going to come down and choose the blur tool right here. And I believe I'm going to use the Gaussian blur. And if I bring this up, you can see I can just really, really blur this image. But what I'm going for here is trying to blur that background and then have those blossoms become figural on that blurred background. So if I do this preserved edge, it's preserving that background more than I want. I really don't want that. I'm going to just leave it down. But what I want to do now is I want to wipe that blur away from those flowers, but leave it on everything else. So to do that, I'm going to come up here to the masking tool. It's right here. And this is one of the coolest tools. Every adjustment in Topaz Studio has a masking tool. So it gives you a lot of power to put the adjustments that you're making exactly where you want them to go. So I'm going to click on the masking tool, and down here is our tool. And for this, I'm simply going to go in and get my brush. I'm going to leave my transparency low, and I'm going to come in here and start wiping away that top layer. Now you see how it's coming in really sharp. Now I'm going to use this size brush for just a minute, and I'm going to get as much of these flowers as I can get with that big brush. And then I'm going to switch to a smaller brush so I can get the tips of those leaves. And you can see over there on the right, the white box, the white thumbnail, you can see us building the mask. So now I want to come over here. I want to bring my radius down to make a smaller brush. There it is. I also want to bring my sharpness or my softness up. So you notice when I do that, it expands the distance between the red inner circle and the outer circle. I'm going to bring that all the way up. And now I can come in here and I can get those edges. And also I have edge aware turned on, and I pretty much leave that on all the time. It lets you come right up to the edges of things. And that red inner box is going to give you your mask, and then the green is going to give you a soft edge. So again, I'm kind of going through here and getting all these. Okay, so now what I've done then is mask this in such a way that our blur is only affecting the flower or the background, not the flowers. And if I wanted to come back in here, I could increase that blur more and see how it's just leaving those flowers. Now that's way too much. So I'm going to back it off. I still want to have the context of those lilies there, but I want them to be really, really blurred and the flowers coming out. So that's my blur. And then the next thing I'm going to do is a precision detail. So I'm going to come in here and go down to precision detail. And this is one of those tools that it's very deep and complex. You can adjust overall, you can adjust shadows, you can adjust just highlights using all of these different sliders. And I invite you to do that sometime. But what I like to do is come down to my presets here. It's a lot more manageable. I can always tweak something that I've chosen as a preset, but it gets me started. And sometimes it's all I ever need. What I'm going to do for this one, now you'll go through and try each of these. If you click on one, there's balanced. It runs for a second and it shows you a preview of balanced. Until you click apply, it doesn't apply it to your, apply the adjustment to your image. What I'm going to do is try this smoothed and dreamy over here. I'm going to click on that. And I really like that, what that's doing to our image. It's smoothing out things in a way that's positive to me. Now I might want to, it might be too much. So I can always use this opacity slider here and drop that effect back just a little bit. And that's probably what I'll do there for that. Let's see, next, that was the precision detail. Next thing I'll do is a little radiance. I'm going to come in here and down below here, this is this tool radiance right here. I love this tool for adding a soft glow, kind of almost like an Orton effect to your image. And I'm just going to give it only 2. A little goes a long way. Look how it's softened that image. And I really like that effect. Sometimes you can switch to the dark, and you might like that a little better. If I go back to light, I think I do. I like the dark. It's very subtle, but I like what the differences are. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go up and add an impression filter, an impression adjustment. This is our painterly effect. When I click on that, I'm going to start with a type 12, this one right here, brush. And I've played with this in advance, so I kind of know where I'm headed with this. So I'm choosing that brush, and you'll notice right away, let's see, I also want to have a low number of strokes. And let's see. Okay, So now as we look at the image, notice we've got white areas showing in the image. What's happening is we don't have enough paint on the canvas. And what we're seeing, that white we're seeing, is the canvas showing through. So there are a couple of ways to deal with that. One is to come over here and increase your brush size. And as you do, notice how it has eliminated those spots. And this is another look, and this may be what you're going for. I'm going to reset this to where it was. That's one way to eliminate those spots. You can increase the brush size, you can add paint here with paint volume and so on. But what I like to do is to slide all the way down here to texture and slide down to the bottom. And you'll notice the background type is solid and the color is white. So that white that we're seeing in the image is the canvas, the white background showing through. Well, you could choose a different color here if you wanted. That's another way. But what I like to do is choose the original image as a background. So when I watch the image, when I click original, so now the background of the image, or the background of the painting, is the original image. And I just think that that works really, really well for me. But I'm starting to get my flowers to be a little bit too painted. I don't want them that much. I want the background to drift away, but I want those flowers. So what I want to do, remember, we've got this blur down here that we did. We created this blur mask. So if I click on that, I can come down here, there's my mask, and I can go in here to this ellipse, and I can copy that mask. So the mask is now on a clipboard. Now I can come back to this impression layer at the top, and I can choose the mask icon right here, come down here, choose paste, and now I've just pasted the mask so that the painterly effect that we're doing is no longer on the flowers. They're really coming off the page, and that background is drifting off into nothingness, which is what I'm looking for. So what I can do now is go back into the impression here, and I can play with this a little bit. Maybe I want that, maybe let's see what happens if I do a medium number of strokes, and it'll change that background. Ooh, that's getting even better. Let's see what high number does. I like that even better. It looks more ethereal, it's softer, it's in the background. So that's essentially what I'm going to do with that particular layer, but I'm not done. I'm going to come up and add another impression layer. So down here, another impression layer, and this time I'm going to choose the number 1 type 1 brush. So I've just chosen the number 1 brush and a high number of strokes, and that's looking pretty good. But again, we've got these little white specks showing through. The canvas is showing. So again, I'm going to go all the way down, choose texture, go all the way down, and change the solid white to the original image. There we go. But again, I don't want the painting on the image. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to choose the masking tool. Now, remember, the mask we copied is still in the clipboard. So I'm going to click on that, come down here to the ellipsis, and paste that mask in again. And there is, now it's letting these show through in a really fun way. Now I'm going to go back here to my impression layer, and I want to play with that. What happens if I make the brush size smaller? Oh yeah, now see how it's starting to get a little less. Let me even drop it even more. Oh yeah, now see how it's sort of smoothing out, but it's still too bright and everything for me. So I want to choose, go back to this impression layer, and one of the things that we have in each adjustment are blend mode options to select. If I click on where it says normal here on this little arrow, look at all these blend modes. Now, if you've used other tools, you know that blend modes are just instructions to the program on how to blend the two, the texture or the filter, in this case, the painterly effect, with the original image. So as you mouse over each of these, it will give you and show you the preview of that effect. Let's go down. If we go down to screen, we get that effect. If we go to color dodge, we get yet another effect. The one I'm going to choose for this is multiply. And there's the multiply effect. And we're starting to get closer and closer to what I'm looking for with this image. I'm going to select that. And let's see. I'm going to now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to back out of here and do another basic adjustment. And what I want to do is drop that whole exposure down a little bit and darken the image. But then I want to just come down and darken the shadows a little. And I do also maybe want to darken my highlights just a little bit. So now we're getting a little bit, let's see if I go down my exposure here. That's too dark for me. So I want to bring that black level up. That's too much. Somewhere in there. And then what I want to do, I want to change the color or darken the color of these a little bit. So I'm going to go into my HSL color tuning here and choose this orange color. And I'm going to saturate it a little bit and drop my brightness down. And let me see here. Am I getting, that's, yeah, I'm getting closer to what I'm looking for. And if I go to yellow, I can come in here and saturate it a little more and maybe even more and drop my brightness down a little bit, something like that. And I can come back here. I can brighten that orange a little bit. So you can see how it's tweaking those colors. If I drop that orange down even more, I can start to get kind of an iridescent glow with the flowers. And that's what I'm looking for, something like that. So we're really close to where I wanted to be with this. It still looks to me, I'm going to go back and do another basic adjustment here. And I'm going to try and lift those shadows a little bit in here. That's, whoa, that's way too much. A little goes a long way here. What I'm trying to do is just lift that darkness out of those dark areas. So they're not quite so heavy, something like that. And that's how it's done. I mean, that's how I created this. Again, you can tweak this till the cows come home, looking for those exact tonality qualities that you want and so on. But for this demo, I'm going to stop right there and call it a day. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. I hope you'll explore and play on your own and turn some images into something really fun. And if you liked the video, please click, you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want. I'm constantly putting new things out there as I learn new things or find things that I want to share. So I hope you'll do that. And also keep in mind, if you are in the market for any of the software, or if you already purchased the software in the past, and it's time to renew your license, I have a link and a code. If you use my link and my code, you can get a 15% discount on all new products that you purchase, and also on your license renewal. So, and if there's a sale going on a product, you'll get the sale price plus my 15% on top of that. So it's a really good deal. When you use my link and code, you get your discount and I get a small commission. So I thank you for using that. That's it, folks. Thanks a bunch. I'm glad you're here. Until next time, keep on creating.